Welcome to a new hand at Hustler Casino Live between Nick Airball and Alan Keating. The blinds are 500 on 1,000 with a 2,000 big blind ante. Both players are extremely deep. They each have roughly $1.1 million. We're going to play this hand from Nick Airball's point of view, sitting in the low jack. Nick opens to $6,000, folded to Keating in the big blind, who calls. Nick's hand is 6 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 5-6 suited. A reasonable open, and we're going to reveal Keating's hand later, so you can think through the hand like you're Nick. Now we go to the flop. The flop comes 3, 4, 8. Alan Keating checks. Back to you as Nick Airball. What do you do? Pause the video, think about it, and when you're ready, hit play to continue. Wow, what a flop. To start, Alan Keating checks, which is standard out of position. You let the pre-flop raiser continue the aggression. And just so you know, Keating is known for being very loose and aggressive, especially from the big blind. He can show up with all kinds of trashy hands. But this flop is a monster for Nick Airball. When we look at the hand evaluation, Airball has a combo draw, a diamond straight flush draw, plus an open-ended straight draw. And on top of that, he can also improve by pairing his hand, 3 outs to make a pair of 5s, and 3 outs to make a pair of 6s. Now, if we look at the hands that beat him right now, there are a lot. Any made pair, 2 pair, and all the sets. Set of 8s, set of 4s, set of 3s. So even though we have huge potential, we're still not made yet. Now let's open the explain window. The recommendation is clear. With this kind of equity and fold equity, you can either bet medium or bet big, because you're in position and you want to build the pot with a monster draw. The SPR is huge, and we're sitting on around 15 outs when you count diamonds plus the straight cards. But that's not what Nick Airball does. He bets only $5,000. And now, surprise, surprise, Keating raises to $35,000. Okay, that changes the story completely. What do you do now? Pause the video, think about it, and when you're ready, hit play to continue. All right, welcome back. So on this flop, after the check raise from Keating, when we look at the analyze window, the solver says it's mostly a call. Why? Because your hand is a very strong draw, and it plays well in position. You've got around 15 cleanouts, and when you compare the numbers, it's clear. The equity required to continue is about 35%, and you have roughly 50%. So we don't fold, and we don't raise very often. Sure, you could argue for a raise sometimes, but the solver prefers a call the vast majority of the time. And that's exactly what Airball does. We go to the turn. The turn is the 3 of hearts. Nick doesn't improve, and Keating keeps the pressure on, betting $60,000. Now it's back to Nick Airball. What should he do? Pause the video, think about it, and when you're ready, hit play to continue. All right, welcome back. So when we look at the hand evaluation on the turn, now in addition to all the pairs, 2 pairs and sets that already beat you, you can also add full houses, and yes, even quad 3s. That's only one combo, but it's still technically possible. And the key point, you still only have a draw. Now when we look at the analyze and explain window, the solver still says it's mostly a call. Why? Same logic as on the flop, but tighter now because there's only 1 card left. The equity required is about 30%. And your current equity is right around 30%. So you don't fold, but you also don't raise. Because if you raise, you're mostly getting called or even re-raised by hands that are already made. So the solver says, call. But that's not what Nick Airball does. He raises to $230,000. Is that big enough? If you're going to raise here, you probably want something closer to $300,000. So $230K is close, but it's arguably not quite big enough to fold out strong 1-pair hands, and it's definitely not folding out 2-pair sets or any full house. Keating calls the extra $170,000, and we go to the river. The river is the ace of spades, and that changes basically nothing. We're not really worried about something like 5 deuce for a wheel straight. That's not the story here. Keating checks. Now Nick Airball has roughly $800,000 left, and he's looking at the spot. He missed everything. No flush, no straight, not even a pair. So the question is, do you bluff this river? And if yes, how much? because if you check, you're basically giving up a pot that's already massive. There's about $550,000 in the pot. What would you do if you were Nick Airball? Pause the video, think about it, and when you're ready, hit play to continue. Welcome back. So when we look at the Analyze and Explain window, the solver basically gives up here the vast majority of the time. About 80% check. Why? Because if you consider bluffing for, say, another $300,000, you need something like 30% equity for that to make sense. And when you're completely cold on the river, you have basically zero equity. Your only way to win is fold equity. Pure story. So yes, the only bluff that even tries to make sense is one where you represent a monster, like a full house. For example, Ace-3. That story actually fits. You could have Ace-3 on the flop, continue, then turn the 3 into trips on the turn, and by the river, you now have a full house. And if you're truly representing that top full house, what should you do? You should bet all in, because you want to put real pressure on. Lower boats like 8-3 or pocket 4s or pocket 8s, or even a hand like King 3, which Keating can absolutely have from the big blind. So if you're bluffing, the correct bluff is rip it in. But that's not what Nick Airball does. On a pot that's a bit over $500, Nick does a quick calculation, and he bets $525,000, basically pot, but he leaves behind $266,000. And that is the worst of both worlds. You don't look fully committed, so you invite a call. And you also invite a raise from real monsters, because your sizing doesn't scream, I have the nuts. Keating thinks, and ultimately he calls. And he wins with, brace yourself, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. And it actually makes perfect sense. Keating flopped 2 pair. Airball tried to represent Ace-3, continued that story on the turn, but on the river, he doesn't finish the story. He chickens out with a non-all-in sizing. That non-jam is basically a green light for Keating to call. Keating calls, and he wins a pot of about $1.6 million. Well done, Mr. Keating, and I'll see you in another episode of Hustler Casino Live.